New today, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau sued Bank of America and others for allegedly allowing fraud to fester on the money app Zelle. The lawsuit claims Bank of America, JP Morgan Chase, and Wells Fargo rushed the app to the marketplace without implementing effective consumer safeguards. Queen City News anchor Savannah Rudisell and chief legal analyst Khalif Rhodes break down the nearly $900 million lawsuit.
Now, Khalif, this just got announced today, and customers say that they've lost $870 million over Zelle's 7-year existence in this, all due to these failures.
Widespread failures, complaints. Most of the things that I looked in there were kind of comical when you look at what they listed in the complaint, specifically that these banks were telling consumers to contact the fraudsters to get their money back, denying, requests to say, I need a refund, because if you ever go on Zelle, it tells you that your money won't be refunded. Be prepared to look out for scams. And if you called them to complain about it, what the consumers were saying is they'd say, well, contact a fraudster, see if they'd give you your money back. Not just first, but that would be your only recourse. And so the Consumer Protection Bureau was saying, well, that's not what's supposed to happen. You are supposed to protect these consumers. Probably one of my other funniest quotes that I thought was in there said that this was a landmine. They've created a landmine, a hotbed for fraudsters to do whatever they want to do with their own money. And so you're talking about the big banks. These folks knew this was happening. They're seeing the use of Zelle go up while the increase of scams go up at the same time. There has to be some solution, and the only solution is this.
A landmine. That's really powerful
100%.
To hear in this kind of a lawsuit. And the lawsuit hinges on the idea that banks were rushing Zelle to the market without the safeguards that would protect it from becoming a landmine.
You got to look at the timing of it. You had things like Cash App that was really blooming and popping at that time. And so the banks were trying to figure out, well, how can we get this person-to-person, peer-to-peer thing that doesn't seem like it's connected to the bank, that seems like it's something new and fresh and innovative, and it was rushed out there. So there were a number of issues in the very beginning. You couldn't even get access to your bank at the right time. Some banks were slow to roll it out. Some credit unions were slow, or if ever, to roll it out. And so during that process, fraudsters figured out how to step in. And in the interim, there were a lot of things that were happening. And if you remember, PayPal kind of was getting the attacks of scams. And so they were jumping right from PayPal right to this. I mean, any of these, direct to consumer where their banks are supposed to be offhand are becoming a problem for, fraudsters in a hotbed, not to use their own language for fraudsters. But I'm glad that the Consumer Protection Bureau is stepping up and saying at this time, we need to make sure that consumers are protected. Now, obviously, on the other side, the bank is going to say this is politically motivated. This is something that is not driven by facts, but that is the timing of it. The Biden administration ends in a few weeks. The Trump administration is coming in, and you can assume that they're not going to be kicking off any regulatory investigations. You can assume that they're not going to be attacking the banks in this manner. And so even if this doesn't see the light of day in a courthouse, it will show to the consumers that we recognize there's a problem and that we can go out there and at least attempt to fight for you. I just wish they would have started this fight maybe 2 years ago so it would have had time to see a courtroom.
One of the key points that the lawsuit shows now is that the banks didn't track these fraudsters, so that essentially they could go hopping between banks and become repeat offenders.
Well, anytime you silo yourself off, and by nature these banks are their competitors, right? So Fifth Third or Truist is not going to work with Bank of America or Wells Fargo. But when you're having issues like this, where you're saying we're noticing a trend, we're noticing that consumers are saying the exact same thing. Yes, the lawsuit recognizes that you guys knew that this was happening and you did nothing to stop it. And that's what the problem is. If you are aware of an issue and then you fail, that checks off one of the boxes for what they would need to do to be successful, is that you knew or should have known that there's a problem. I'm assuming that they're going to continue to allege that you knew this was running on and failed to stop over and over and over again. And then at some point, 2023 is when they started to say, okay, we need to reimburse consumers. We need to start allowing a process to be in place because our customers are leaving, they're being frustrated, and they're being exploited.
Well, this is something certainly very impactful for people who use this online banking, and
self-included.
Mine as well. Absolutely. We'll keep you updated here as this lawsuit continues.